Because when we raise this question, does my dog really understand what I'm saying? Then we are we are comparing two different species. So we are comparing human beings and how do they use language with that of animals, and how do they use language, whether they can use language or not. Because we have seen that animals cannot use language. Animals, in fact, they do not have the gift of language. They can correspond to certain signs, they can make certain gestures, and they can make certain clicks, uh, other sounds, but the facility to combine different words and make different sentences, that is not there with the dogs. Because when it comes to human beings, we have words. First, we have thousands of words, and you can find these words in any standard dictionary. The example of standard dictionaries are Oxford Advanced Learner Dictionary, Collins Cobbled Learner Dictionary, Macmillan Longman. So you have different reputed companies, and they publish standard dictionaries. And in a dictionary, you can find thousands of words, but that is not all. The interesting thing that human can use those words, combine those words differently and make different sentences, innumerable sentences, innumerable utterances. So much so that even no one can write all the utterances or sentences that can be produced with the permutation and combination of those words that are available in a valid dictionary, in a good dictionary. For example, there are three words I have. I have a word like John. I have a word like Mary. I have a word like loves. When I combine this, then I can also make John loves Mary. I can also make Mary loves John. Now this facility of combining words and making different utterances or sentences is not available with animals. And in animals, we have seen the examples of dogs, like we have seen the examples of fish, like we have seen the example of honeybee, we have seen the example of chimpanzee. So to answer this, does my dog really understand what I am saying? The very straightforward one word answer is no. Not only that, when we look into this issue, human communication versus animal communication, then Charles Hockett's design features of language, they also play a very significant role. And as we know that linguist Charles Hockett published a book titled A Course in Modern Linguistics in 1958, where he mentioned certain design features. Design features, though at surface level it sounds a bit technical word, but the meaning is the characteristic features of human language, and those features how they distinguish from other communication systems used by human beings. For example, when it comes to the language of computer, the language that computer understands, when you give a command to computer, it is actually in binary digit, that is 0 1. So whether you are typing a letter B on your Microsoft Word, or you are typing anything, you are just changing your status on Facebook, and whatever you type, that is the keyboard is in English letters, but actually the computer gets the signal in binary digit like 0101. This type of code is there. So but human language is not like 01100110. It's not like that. So human language is different from other communication systems that human beings use. At the same time, human language is different from animal communication as well. And we looked at one such feature known as semanticity. This ity in the end means quality, and we already know the word semantic, that is something to do with meaning, and we have a discipline, semantics, that is the scientific study of meaning. So when we talk about semanticity, we are actually talking about the quality that a linguistic system has, or being able to convey meanings. So when we use language, we are not making random sounds. We are making those sounds only that are understandable by other other person. So we are producing sound waves, and these sound waves are in sound patterns, and these sound patterns meshed with specific meanings. So basically, we have words in the dictionary, and those words have meanings, and when we combine those words, we can make innumerable sentences. When I say innumerable, then you can take this word innumerable literally. That means literally it is not possible for anyone to write all the sentences and utterances that can be made by using those words available in a dictionary. But whatever we say is meaningful uh, in in a normal context. Though we can also make nonsense words, we can also make nonsense sounds. That creativity we also have, but because we don't want to create something nonsense, then most of the time we use those sound patterns which are meshed with specific meanings. Then we also know that there is no logical connection between a sound pattern and the thing it refers to. For example, I call this, and you also call this mouse. But why we call this mouse? One answer will be it looks like a rat or a mouse, but this is not. But when it comes to sound patterns, mouse, ma, u, s, then these sounds are actually not looking like a rat or a mouse. But still we agree that from now onwards, this type of object is called mouse. Or if we talk about that rodent, mouse or rat, then we agree that when we utter these three sounds like mouse or rat, then we refer to that particular thing in the world. We have seen the example of dog. Now dog is in English four-legged canine animal. Kutta in Hindi, again four-legged canine domesticated animal. And Hund in German. But they refer to same. And here is a figure, and you will agree that when I say Kutta, then this type of image comes into your mind, or similar type of image. But you all agree that whatever the variety of that dog, these qualities, four-legged, canine, and domesticated, that is there. If I minus four-legged, then obviously you will say no, dog has legs. So without legs, how can you can say a dog? If I minus canine, then you say no, all dogs are canine animals. How can you say that a particular type of dog is not canine? Domesticated, you all know that all dogs are domesticated. So this is the thing that we want to say, that there is a concept like arbitrariness. There is no logical connection between signal, that is sound pattern, and the thing it refers to. And Saussure, in his book A Course in General Linguistics, published in 1916, also talks about this relationship between signifier and signified. And Saussure says that the relationship between signifier and signified is arbitrary. Arbitrary means there is no relationship between signifier, that is sound pattern, and signified, the concept, the thing it refers to. We have also seen discreteness, the design feature. And what do we mean by discreteness? That the messages are made up of smaller and repeatable parts rather than indivisible units. So, dog, we use three sounds: d, o, g. We change the sequence: g, o, d, different word. So we can reuse. We can say do, do. We can say go, go. So we can use them multiple times because we know that there are only 26 letters in English language starting from A and ends with Z. And we have only 44 sounds, consonants and vowel sounds in the English language. But we use them again and again, again and again. And we have thousands of words in a standard dictionary. And we are able to use those 44 sounds, 26 letters. An entire literature is written. You will find millions of books. And those books are written using only those 26 letters when it comes to English books and only those 44 sounds. So this is discreteness. Messages are made up of smaller and repeatable parts. So a word can be broken down into small units of sounds. That is the meaning. We have a word like unhappiness. Now, unhappiness is a big word, but happy is also there in unhappiness. Happiness is also there in unhappiness. Unhappy is also there in unhappiness. So that's the meaning that we want to convey with the concept discreteness. Displacement, again, a wonderful quality that we have in the human language, that we can use language beyond time, beyond space. We can think about future. We uh, we can talk about what happened in the past and what's going on, that we can talk about as well. So we can talk about aliens. We have lots of zombie movies, but you know that zombies are not real, but we enjoy those movies. We have lots of ghost movies, but if I ask any one of you have really seen ghost in your entire life, you will say no. We have lots of books where the word God is mentioned, and if I ask any one of you have really seen God, then you will say no. We have statues. Fine. We have a belief. So we can talk about anything, whether that thing exists or whether that thing does not exist. That is displacement, thinking about past and future, thinking about here and elsewhere. I can tell you that, okay, 2 years back, I visited Copenhagen, Denmark. So that type of thing is there. You can also tell that, okay, last summer, I visited a beautiful hill station. So likewise, we can talk about things beyond time, beyond space. Another is productivity. Language users can understand and create never before heard utterances, that we also saw. That I saw a dinosaur in my garage. That example I gave you in the last class. Similarly, we have an example of Ludling. Now, what is Ludling? Ludling is a secret language. Secret language can be used by robbers. Secret language can be used by pirates. It was actually used by pirates because they didn't want to disclose their plan. And secret language is also used by children. So when one military army communicates or pass on some message to its alliance, then that message is in secret language. So we have a Morse code. So that what is Morse code? Morse code is again an example of secret language. So we can also make secret language. You can also make secret language. Just you need to arrange two person, and you need to agree that from now onwards we will call this a book. And if you call this a book, then only those who are sharing this code that from now onward this is a book, not a mouse, will understand that okay, you are talking about this and no other thing. So this facility is with you, but this facility is dependent upon two parties agreement that from now onwards we agree to say this thing, let's say a book, and we mean actually also, we mean that this is a book. So this is productivity that we have. Then recycling or duality of patterning that we have also seen, and this duality of patterning is quite related to discreteness. But in discreteness, we have this concept that reusability, fine, and we can use those sounds or words again and again. So similarly, we have this duality of patterning. Again, a large number of meaningful utterances can be made from a small number of discrete parts of language. So da or g, and I have given you already this example, this happiness, goodness, this example I have already given. Now, certain features we have seen, but there are more in Charles Hockett's design features of language, and they are divided into like this. So four features are user type. Fine. And what are those features which are user type? Specialized. Second is interchangeable, sensitive to feedback, and interactive. Now, when we use user type, then here the focus is on speech, particularly, though it can be writing as well. So when it comes to specialized, then speech is specialized for communication. If we try to find out what is the function of speech, then speech is specialized for communication and not a side effect of some other behavior. So it's not like a side product. If you try to understand that what is the function of your tongue, like if this is the question, if someone raises a question that what is the function of your tongue, all of us have one tongue. The first and the primary function of tongue is to is uh, is to taste the food, because we can't survive without eating. So not only to taste the food, but also it helps in moving the morsel uh, inside your mouth and pushing it backwards. So that is the primary function, because if you don't speak for 10 days, then you won't die. If you won't speak for entire life, nothing will happen to you. But if you won't eat, and if you do not have a tongue, then how can you gulp? How can you gulp water? How can you gulp that morsel in your stomach? So that is the primary function. So so that's why when we talk about speech, then primary function of speech is not to give sermon. Primary function of speech is not to rebuke. Primary function of speech is not to recite poetry. Primary function of speech is that it is specialized for communication. That is we mean by the primary function of something. Then another user type feature is interchangeable. Now, what do we mean by interchangeable? Users, we are language users, we send and receive messages. So all utterances that are understood can be produced. So it's not the case that what I am saying you cannot say, or what you are saying I cannot say. It is interchangeable. What you are saying I can also say. So that is again interchangeability that is there. We can say what we understand. that is interchangeability. Then sensitive to feedback. We can give feedback on anything, and at the same time you can also hear what you are saying. What am I saying? I am also hearing it. It's not the case that I'm saying it but I don't understand or I don't hear it. So we can monitor our production. So sometimes, like, there are 60 people, and if I say something, then someone can raise a hand and say, sir, your voice is not loud. So I can be loud. Or even I can understand that if only 5 people are there in the class, then how much loudness do I require? Or if 60 people are there, then how much loud I need to be? So that means I can monitor my production. That is, and you can not only monitor yourself, your production, but you can also monitor other people's speech. So sometimes you hear when someone says a bad word, an abuse, then you will say he or she should not have used such type of word. That is again a feedback. Interactive. Interactive is cultural transmission. Now you can't say that language is your property, English is my property, Dogri is my property, because it is a part of a cultural transmission. That means Dogri, Hindi, English, or any other language we have learned from our previous generation. Generally, parents are responsible for teaching us the first language, that is your mother tongue. So each generation learns from preceding generation. Now not only language, but through language you learn many more things: how to worship, how to greet elders, how to talk with your colleagues, fine, how to pay respect to your parents, fine, and how to make a polite request, and how to be angry, how to tell a lie, fine, all such things. These are culturally transmitted. You know about who are my gods and who are not my gods, fine. So this division we have also very finely made. So what is this thing? Through language we also transmit culture. Semanticity we have already discussed. Productivity we have already discussed. Displacement we have already discussed. Semanticity, productivity, displacement, they are message type. Another message type is prevarication. Now, what is prevarication? Prevarication means anything that you say can be false, deceptive, meaningless. Entire literature that you read is false. Entire literature that you read is fiction. I won't say that literature is deceptive, because literature teaches us many good things, and literature is full of meaningfulness. So these two are not applicable to literature, deceptiveness and meaninglessness. But literature is, yes, false, because that is purely a case of fiction. If you want to read facts, then you must read newspaper report, or nowadays news are also false and fictional. So otherwise news reporting is considered truthful. Otherwise everything that is produced under literature is false, because it is created by human being. It never happened actually. There is a possibility that it is inspired by something that happened actually, but there are so many fictional elements are added by the writer. So these four: semanticity, productivity, displacement, and prevarication, they are message type. Then these five are code type. Arbitrary, we have already discussed arbitrary. Hierarchical, or duality of patterning, that we have also discussed. Discreteness we have also discussed. They are code type. And learnability, this is new. That is, a speaker can learn another language, we can learn another language. So my mother tongue is Hindi, and when I joined school, then I learned English language. So similar is the case with all of you, that no one's mother tongue is English when it comes to uh, um, Indians. But we all have learned, we have learned a second language, another language, and now also you can learn any other language. So it's always a case whether you are interested in or not. Then reflexiveness is another related to code, and it is also known as metalingual. One can communicate about communication. For example, in linguistics, what we do, we talk about language. So language for language, we are using language to talk about language. That is reflexiveness, metalingual quality that we have. Then another four types, they are signal. Now, what are signals? Like visual, auditory, channel, generally we use. So auditory, you also understand that something is said, something is heard, fine. We have sound waves, and they are in some sound pattern, and they are matched with specific signals. So that we have also uh, also visual. Why it's visual? Because when we talk to people, then we also use our hands. We also use, like you can see that I am continuously moving my head. So sometimes this side, sometimes I can raise my eyebrow, and sometimes I can show other signs, like this sign is for victory that we have. So we not only simply use this, but we also use our entire body when we communicate. So we also have a discipline like body language. So people who are body language expert, uh, they can tell you what is not actually said by observing the body. So spoken language uses the airways to produce acoustic and visual signals. That is, we agree, keeping the hands free for other tasks. So that's there. Like it's not necessarily that I will use my hands, then you will only understand me. That is also there. So modality is specific. Then rapid fading is also known as transitoriness. That what I say in sound waves, they are lost after few seconds. Like in a couple of seconds, it's lost. It's lost in the atmosphere. It lost in this environment, in this cosmos. Whatever I said. So unless you record it, you can't get it back what I said, or you write it down, you jot it down properly. Otherwise, signals last for short, that is rapid fading. Then directional reception, source and direction of the signal can be identified. Like you are walking down and someone calls you up, then you know that from where sound is, from where the sound is coming, and you will move your head in that particular direction. So like if one person is addressing a crowd of 60 people, then even if the 55th person is saying something, then the person will move in that direction, because we know from where the sound is coming. That is known as the human language is directional reception. Then one to many, we have already discussed. This is known as broadcasting. So one sender broadcast speech signal to many receivers at the same time. This is, so these four, they are the part of signal. So these are the design features, all design features posited by Charles Hockett in his book titled A Modern a course in modern linguistics, published in 1958. And this is for the day. And if you have any question, you can ask me. I will be happy to answer that. And before that, I will